Welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm calling the regular scheduled meeting of the Town Plan and Zoning Commission to order. Today is Monday, March 2nd, 2026 at 6:35 p.m. My name is Jeff Kennedy. I'm the chair of the Woodbridge Town Plan and Zoning Commission. Other members of the commission with us tonight include Aaron Hoffman, our vice chair, Jim Horowitz, Matt Edwards, Paul Schatz, our Commissioner Secretary, Rob McClure, and Bob Wisnia. Thank you all for attending this evening. Appreciate you being here. We're ably supported by Chris Sullivan, our town and land use analyst and zoning enforcement officer. We're meeting here in person in Woodbridge Town Hall, and it's nice to see everybody. Our meeting agenda tonight is available on the town website and was previously published on February 26th. Nick Bamonte is our town attorney. He's here remotely in front of us on the Star Trek feed, right in front of us. Commissioners can see him. Thank you for joining us. And before we begin tonight, I'll mention a couple of things. In terms of our agenda, we have a public hearing and a special exception hearing on 270 Amity Road with some signage. We're going to schedule a liquor request establishment at 220 Amity Road. And then we have a work session this evening, and we have some minutes to get through and some other business, including a letter we received. So we're going to move ahead with that agenda. But before I do that, I have two public service announcements, if you will. First, thanks to Nick Bamonte, who had on February 26, 2026, he had a parliamentary procedure and Connecticut Freedom of Information Act, legal training and overview. That is recorded and available. Chris, is that on YouTube at this point?
Nick says yes.
Nick, thank you. So that training can be accessed. I also have additional guides and so forth for anybody that wasn't able to make it. Some commissioners did. And Nick, thank you so much for that presentation. And then
you're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And then one other comment, just to mention on our webpage, there is a document called the Connecticut Council of Government Summary of House Bill 8002. It's a written summary of Special Act 25-1. That is a mouthful. But this is the Connecticut Association of Councils of Governments assessment and analysis of the new recently passed legislation that just went into effect, I believe, January 1st or July 1st. But it's in effect now, and some of it comes into effect July 1st. But that includes new details on housing growth plans and so forth. That is on our website. I would suggest to the commissioners checking it out, and also to other people in town to just be aware of what's in that legislation. So this evening we're going to move into our agenda. So we have for 270 Amity Road, Suite 124. Someone would like to put up a sign, and is the applicant here this evening? Okay. You can come up and please take a seat if you would. Thank you so much. And then if you would just introduce yourself and tell us, please, describe what you're looking to do.
Do I have to fill out this?
Please sign your name, and just state your name for the record, and thank you for being with us.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Ming Hui. I am the owner of Mathnasium of Woodbridge, which is a tenant at the 270 Amity Road, Suite 124. Mathnasium of Woodbridge is a math learning center. We teach math to students K to 12 in the Amity area, and this is the second location that I'm running right now. I own one in Milford, Mathnasium in Milford. That one I've been running for 3 years now, almost 3 years. And I am a resident of Woodbridge. And so because of the success of Milford, I decided to open one here in Woodbridge, because a lot of my students in Milford actually are from the Woodbridge area. Actually, a high percentage of my students are Woodbridge. Anyway, so today I'm trying to just request for a sign. I've been operating since November. I still don't have a sign. So I want to have a sign.
Sure.
And there's already, so the Coldwell Banker that operates right next to, I guess, like one other space next to me, and they have a big sign, so just want to have a sign as well.
Sure. Thank you for coming tonight. Do any commissioners have any questions considering the request?
So I do have a question, but not for the applicant.
Sure.
So what is the current zoning regulation there? What are we seeking to get a special exception from? And just as importantly, what's the reason why the existing regulation exists?
Well, signage generally is often subject to some town plan and zone regulation. It surprised me a little bit as the chair that this particular request needed to come in as a special exception basis. It's not a very big sign. If the sign were especially outsized or very huge, I could see that. But under the regs, this actually does require a special exception. Chris, did you want to make any comments on that?
The initial sign doesn't require a special exception, but this being a second sign, it does.
So in other words, if this were just the first sign on the building,
It wouldn't
no
come
special
into-
exception is required. But the thing that we are trying to protect in Woodbridge is buildings with multiple signs. That's
The last one that was approved by the commission was for the pharmacy that's at 245 Amity Road. That's an end unit, and so he had requested and was granted having a second sign that faces towards Litchfield Turnpike.
Do we know what the goal was? The goal was of the creation of that ordinance or that rule in the first place. What was it that people were trying to?
They didn't really go into that much of a specific about it.
Is this the first sign, is it a sign per unit or sign per building? Because this is a
Per
multi-tenant.
building. So
So,
you have signs that can, so like at Selden Street, you have individual signs for each thing. Those had always been there, and the way the regulation is written, it says that, if something becomes non-conforming, it can disappear.
Yep.
And so I guess in an effort to reduce some of that, they were saying that you could only have 2 wall signs in a sense. They did allow, the regs do allow for having a smaller sign, so that, like if you're walking down the facade of 245 Amity or one of these structures, you can have a sign that identifies which unit it is, but to identify it from the parking lot or from someone driving by, there's no other means that's out there.
I think as we discuss promoting business in the business district, we should look at this because any
I'm
multi-tenant-
in full agreement that this is a bit of an onerous thing and the sign itself, it's not like 300 feet by 500 feet, or it's not a billboard type thing. It's a very small attachment to a building, and I would certainly be open in the future to having that as a reg that we should adjust and relook at. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that if we're going to have a reg that makes sense, rather than us dealing with application for special exception, we should have a regulation that reflects what it is that we want to do.
Yeah.
And the idea of encouraging business at this location sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
But what do we do when the third person comes, or the fourth person comes,
Sure.
or the fifth person comes?
Sure.
And we should,
So that's why the reg in general could be looked at in the context of other regulations and who could approve it. Can it just be approved by the town, by a zoning enforcement person? Can it be approved without a special exception? I literally have to open a public hearing this evening and open it, see if anyone wants to have a say, and then close it to get on the record because it's a special exception.
I guess I'm not following that part. The
That's
the
okay.
thing that concerns me
Sure.
is the ongoing use of special exception world. And if we think that we should be having businesses and allow them to have signs, and I think that's good.
Sure.
And if we agree that that's good, we should do something so that we're not just granting special exceptions, but that we are addressing this issue more systematically, so that when the next person comes, they don't have to come. They can just say, okay, here's a reg that makes sense for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Woodbridge.
agreeing to. That's what I'm saying we should do. We're not going to do it right now, but I agree.
I was gonna say, like, one thing, like in my experience, like this, like, trying to control signage in a town is all about, like, avoiding Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay? And so you don't want neon signs, you don't want, like, just giant big signs, like, a good example of that is like the Hi-Ho Motel, right? I mean, it's kind of like a vintage thing, so it's kind of cool, but like, imagine if everyone did that in a town,
Exactly.
right? So I think that the key is like, you shouldn't like impose restrictions, but at the same time, you should have some limitations, because you might not like what you asked for. But the sign, I looked at the sign, the sign seems very reasonable.
That's
And
probably
it's a
why
great-
they
and it's a
have
great
these
business too,
special
so.
exceptions, like you said, because they're concerned about going to the other extreme.
Right.
Yeah.
So they want to,
And sometimes that can be
Yeah.
cured through
The
regulations.
extreme too. So we were at the neon signs, and we were at some of the ostentatious ones. Frankly, I don't know how many we've got in the last 6 years, but I would venture to say it's not even six in 6 years. I don't see what's so wrong about what we're doing now, because you can't articulate in writing how to address what could be gaudy or ostentatious or unsightly, and to try to, we'll spend 2 years on what the sign requirements should be when we could just do this once a year. I mean, we should be so lucky that there's so many businesses coming in that we've got to worry about all the signs, but I think we're solving a problem that's not really a problem, in my view.
But don't you think it's I mean, the fact that there's a survey, topographical survey attached to this, which I'm not holding up, but seems absurd. I think to a small business owner, which seems like the type of business owner we want to attract, I'm glad that you went, and I'm sorry that we're having this conversation.
Nah.
Yeah,
Well, you
no,
said it.
Really,
thank you,
hopefully we-
appreciate you thinking on my behalf.
But I think that there are lots of examples of communities with reasonable regulations that, include limits on the size and limits on the type of lighting. And you could start with that, and if people want to go, I just think that would be a way to demonstrate as a board our seriousness about trying to incentivize business development in the business
That's
district.
not incentivizing business development.
Not incentivizing,
And-
taking away burdens and
I
hurdles.
get that, and I'm all for that. But I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. We're gonna do some regulation after 2 years of wordsmithing and wasting a lot of time. And then someone's gonna put up a sign that people are gonna be absolutely pissed off about. And people are gonna come back here and say, how could you allow this? And we say, well, because we spent 2 years on this document and it conforms, although we didn't contemplate that happening. Then we'll be right back here again saying, well, we should go back to the special exception. I mean, I don't mind you want to make it easier on the applicants, that's fine. But, I mean, we just go round and round. We go from one extreme to the other extreme, and we'll spend so much time on this. There are so many big issues in this town which we don't have time for. Like this, to me, we're solving a problem that, again, doesn't exist. I'm fine with it. I'd work with any business owner, as a small business owner in town, to make it less burdensome. But let's work on the big stuff. I mean, we all know what the big stuff is.
So to that end, what I'd like to do is advance this application. Anybody else have any more questions for the applicant specific to her application?
where exactly is the sign going to be on this?
Well, it's in, well, why don't you go ahead and answer that? But we've seen that,
Yes.
we did see it, it was sent to you, so please go ahead.
Yeah, it's just right above my suite. And I basically follow, there's like a zoning page that describes what you're allowed to have. Basically like, you can have a sign that's as big as the front of your suite, like as big as that or something like that. So I
Sure.
basically, and it also had to be approved by, I'm part of a franchise, so it had to be approved by the franchise too. And so the sign is basically that right above my center, yeah.
It's on the triangle, if you will,
Yeah,
right?
basically,
Almost
on the
directly in
triangle.
front.
Yeah, which
And
is
how
right
long
above-
have you been in that space?
Since November.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're already occupying it, people are coming in.
Yeah, I have a lot of students, yeah.
And
And
this
people already
way-
know about me. It's not stopping me from having business, but at the same time, like, I wish, it was an easier process. I think, what some of you pointed out, I think it's just the
Understood.
process.
Yeah.
It could have been an easier process. I'm happy to file it like an application, but like going through a hearing seems like an unnecessary process. And you can still approve or not approve through an application.
I understand your point, and the commission takes that, we get what you're saying, we understand your
Yeah.
point. Okay, so I actually do have to, are there any final questions from commissioners about this? Any other questions? Chris, any other comments? So I do need to have a motion from someone to open a public comment period because
Public hearing.
public hearings.
So moved.
No, no. You don't need a
No, it's a
motion
vote.
to open it for public comment.
The public hearing.
The public hearing is already open.
Yeah, this is.
So did we ever? Was it opened by us putting it in the agenda? Because I didn't.
No, it was opened by you inviting her up to give a presentation.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna ask then, I'm just gonna ask for a general public then, even there's no one here, okay. So are there any comments from the public about the, application for 270 Amity Road, Suite 124? I know, it's a little weird. All right, I'll ask one more time. Are there any members of the public that have any comment regarding this application? One more time, any members of the public? No. All right, Chris, did we get in any written comments on this application?
No, we did not.
So for the public record, we've received no written comments and we have no one in attendance tonight to comment on it. Okay, very good. Can I close the public hearing now or do you do that in the work session?
Now you can have a motion to
Move
close
to close the public
hearing.
hearing.
May I have a second, please? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing for 270 Amity Road, Suite 124, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And we're noting for the record that Matt Edwards is seated because Commissioner Cherry is not here and Matt is in rotation.
Thank you. Any nays? Abstentions? Okay, public hearing is closed. Thank you very much. In just a few minutes, we're going to go to our work session and discuss this. You're welcome to stay and hear it. It'll be very, very soon.
Oh, okay. I'll
Just
just
a
stay.
few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right.
Thanks, everybody.
Sure. Thank you for coming and good luck with your business and welcome to Woodbridge.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a new business that also requires a public hearing. This would be the new business part of the agenda. So this is 220 Amity Road. Chris, you just circulated the application for this, correct?
That is correct. So
So-
this is an addition that's been built onto the building at 220 Amity Road. This is the new gas station in town. So that's the new addition that's, I think, still under construction is
Yeah.
where the proposed.
It's added on to
That's
the
the
gas
Valero
station,
one?
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know
So
if
that's
the,
the location.
the mechanics shop is still there, or are they, because it used to be,
To the best of my knowledge, the mechanic shop was still supposed to be at the back, but
Oh, in the
I
back.
don't
It's not,
know.
it's not in the front anymore.
yeah, no.
no.
No, I didn't even realize that. Okay.
It's
All
in
right,
the-
so we have to have a public hearing on this because it's a liquor store, correct?
Correct.
And we have to measure where the distances are with this particular liquor store to see if it's away from schools or something like that. Is that correct, Chris? Can you just
Yes, your
mention
zoning regulations have now a 300-foot separation distance from a specific litany of things, so we can do
We'll,
that in the
we'll do
interim.
that and then, okay. So,
She has to provide a survey, but the liquor store can't print us a map of,
I just work here, okay?
She didn't have to provide you a survey.
Yeah, no, I guess, can you say that again for the record? She didn't have to provide this.
She
okay.
did not have to provide.
Right, that wasn't a requirement.
okay, good.
All right, Chris, so let's schedule a public hearing
Okay.
at the next TPC regularly scheduled meeting. Is that okay with everybody?
Will that be like, we'll see like what they're gonna do with it, or?
Yes.
Yeah, because my one concern on that site is the parking.
That would certainly be something people would mention, and can come up as part of our discussion when that comes up.
Well, you'd expect that they would give us
So you put the gas in your car, you run in, you buy something, come back in the car. Look, no further comment on that. All right. All right, that concludes our new business section of today's agenda. So now the commission is going to move into its work session. So for consideration, we have 270 Amity Road, Suite 124. Any discussion on the application that we just heard? In that case, I make a motion for approval for the sign at 270 Amity Road, Suite 124, per the applicant's presentation this evening. The documents we received. So there's a motion for approval. Is there a second?
So again,
Rob McClure got a second on that.
did you guys?
Would someone like any commissioners' comments, questions about the application?
So just to, now that we're in our work session, I would
Yes,
just like to
sir.
go back to the conversation that we had earlier.
Sure.
And I heard your comments, Paul, but I do think that it makes sense for us to try to limit our world of special exceptions. And if there is a world that we can make our regulations predictable for businesses so that they don't have to come here for applications, that we are no longer, that we can reduce the number of special exceptions that people are seeking, that is worthwhile activity for us to undertake. So people can look at the regulations, they know that this is what the sign requirements are. I think at that point we are encouraging businesses so that with a measure of predictability rather than let's give a special exception for this and a special exception for that. The other thing that I'm worried about is in our world of special exceptions is that when we live in that world of special exceptions and zoning board 1 agrees to something and then again it happens and then again it happens and now we have too many signs or too many things that are similar and now we're going to deny number 4. It strikes me that we run the risk of being described as arbitrary and capricious or vindictive or some other legal term for why it is that we're declining number 4 when we've already approved number 1, number 2, number 3 that all look exactly the same. So I think it behooves us to try to construct our regulations in a way that is predictable for businesses, predictable for us, and reduces our exposure to liability. So while I am in favor of this applicant, I would encourage us or ask the chair to have us take on the task of creating a regulation with respect to signage that creates predictability for our potential businesses in Woodbridge.
Thank you. All right, can we vote on the motion on the floor?
Don't we come out of work session to do that? Or
No,
do we do that in
all
work
in favor of the motion has been first and seconded, just say aye.
Aye.
Motion, any against, any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, Chris?
Terrific.
And, Jim, thank you. No, didn't you come? Yep, thanks. Okay.
Thank you.
So can I now go put up a sign?
You may. Yes,
all
all
set.
set.
We're all
It has
set.
to get recorded on the land records because it's a special exception. So for it to become active under state statute, there has to be something that I have to give to you to record on the land records.
Oh, okay, so I'll just contact you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you
Good
so
luck.
much.
Good
Thank
luck.
you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Appreciate
it. Okay, next item, we continue under our work session, is discussion regarding potential changes to the opportunity housing section of the zoning regs, and also a discussion of House Bill 8002, which is now called Special Act 25-1. There's two things going on with this. Our town planner, Mike D'Amato, is working on a series of language and regs that he can present to the town plan and zoning commission to consider for us to potentially modify the opportunity housing section of our regs, and also for us to look into what is happening with respect to the new House Bill, Special Act 25-1. There are some changes that will be required by the town, certain things with respect to conversion of commercial buildings into residential buildings and so forth that require the town, or at least give us the option where we ought to consider some changes to regs prior to that date, and that date is July 1st, 2026. Nick, did you want to make some comments generally on this and just sort of talk around this issue a little bit, tell us where it stands? I know you two just got the SCROG data, and I know you're reading through it. Does someone need to mute something? Are we hearing you,
Yeah,
Nick?
is there something, Nick, is there something on your end?
No, I'm hearing you guys fine.
Okay.
I'm getting you, Mr. Chairman.
We hear children,
Kids
I
or
think.
something.
You're like chatter or something.
Yeah.
You don't?
Okay,
I mean, it could be a few rooms down, but
Okay.
okay.
All good.
All right. So maybe you could just discuss around these issues, Nick. Tell us where we are. I know you spoke with Mike D'Amato. Let us know where he is in his presentation, how this is going, to update the commission on these matters.
Sure. So, yeah, thanks, Jeff. As everyone knows, at the last meeting, the town planner presented his initial memo setting forth 3 topic areas that the commission is at least considering, and the broader initiative to explore avenues to increase housing availability. Those 3 main topic areas were ADUs. So can existing ADUs that exist in town be certified as compliant now? And is in parallel, can the Board of Selectmen think about a potential tax abatement program to incentivize those? The second topic was inclusionary zoning, which is a term of art under state law 8-2I. And the question there is, can we mandate deed restricted units in certain developments, just as a baseline? And then also what's enabled under the statute is potentially creating a housing trust fund where payments for certain applications would have to or be required to contribute into this fund, which the town could then also utilize to facilitate further initiatives to advance housing. And then the largest topic piece, which is really the main one that this commission initiated back in the wintertime, was the amendments to the local opportunity housing regulation. Obviously, the commission acted to go back to the December 2024 version. And at this point, as you reported, Mr. Chairman, we're putting together and will at some point soon bring an actual red line to this commission for consideration that addresses these 3 tiers that Mike D'Amato had presented. Effectively, each tier representing a number of units in a proposed development. So tier 1 is up to a certain number, tier 2 is a larger development, and then tier 3 is a type of development over a certain number of units. And then as those tiers increase, the town, the commission, really has increasing control, increasing requirements for portions of those developments to be deed restricted to grant the town these additional units and these additional points that could then potentially be utilized in a moratorium application to DOH. So that is still the plan here. As part of the reg change, though, Mr. Chairman just mentioned what is now Special Session Public Act 25-1, formerly Senate Bill 8002, that has become law. That will change again, by the way, in the next session. Some things in that over 100-page act will be changed. But what we do know, and what we're fairly confident will not change, is the obligation due by July 1st of this year that applies under the law to all municipalities, that the regulations have to be updated to allow a summary review process for certain proposed developments. They call these transit community middle housing developments. It's a defined term in the state law. Basically says that on lots zoned commercial or mixed use, where there's a housing proposal that meets certain criteria, the zoning commission effectively has to entertain that application as a site plan review with no public hearing. So it's by summary process, it's a more abbreviated review process where there's less discretionary criteria for denial that the commission has for those specific types of developments. I mention this because it takes a regulation change to comply with this new obligation that applies to all municipalities under Public Act 25-1. So as part of the lift that this commission is entertaining for its opportunity housing update, which we hope and expect to be in a position to vote on well before July, the thought is we'll also build in a red line so that the commission can consider these mandatory changes. We'll check that box of 25-1, and then we'll also address the larger concern of actually creating a functional, effective, hopefully at least, opportunity housing regulation in town. In terms of substance on that process, we are continuing to review the highly robust summary of the full Act 25-1 to identify any other obligations that are going to fall to the town and to the commission in the longer term. So we're continuing to engage in that. But in terms of actually bringing a deliverable to this commission for consideration, my understanding is at the next, well, maybe not your next meeting, because there may be some scheduling issues with some of your members, but it could be at a special meeting, it could be at a meeting slightly later in April, but what's being contemplated is a joint meeting of this commission, the Conservation Commission, the Housing Commission, a few other boards, CUPOP I think is involved, and to receive input, to receive recommendations, to bring the stakeholders in and try to hear what they might want to see in an opportunity housing regulation. And at that point, I think we'll be in the best position, at least between Mike D'Amato and I, to craft a red line along the lines of those three tiers, and also addressing the mandatory obligations of the legislation, so that this commission can actually move forward with this initiative.
Nick, let me stop you there. A couple of questions. So this is statewide. So there's 169, municipalities, larger cities, small towns. Everyone is having to pivot quickly, correct, to get this
That's correct.
done. Are you seeing this in other towns? Are people trying to update their zoning regs right away to these changes?
For these ones, for the transit community middle housing change, that is the imminent change that's required by July. And this is the same advice that I am giving my municipal clients, that my partners are, and as far as I know, municipal attorneys across the state are advising and assisting their zoning commissions, to implement at least this clear obligation that is due on the books by July 1st. So obviously, we've got to set that up so that it becomes effective by July 1st.
I would mention again that when we started the meeting, I mentioned that there's a document out there that SCROG prepared, or the regional governments prepared. I would take a look at that as commission members. It's a terrific document to sort of scope out, and it says what's going on with these changes. It is a heavy lift. There's quite a bit there, and there's several sections and there's several pieces of the law that come into play over the next 2 or 3 years. And I want to hear from other commission members if you want to say anything. Paul, I think you had a question. But I would definitely go to that document. It's very helpful.
So Nick, I just want to make sure I understand. We're waiting on you and Mike to give us a red line or a rough draft of something, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then 2 is, excuse me, you're going to email to us with significant time before we have a meeting with anybody else, correct? We're not going to come to a meeting and go through this page by page for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct.
Okay, good.
The way I'm anticipating it now is that your next meeting, you'll receive this input from these other groups, and then this commission can give more specific direction to the planner and I to craft that red line.
Okay, so the timeline is there's going to be some meeting in the next 2 months with some group of people, and then from that meeting, you guys are going to craft a red line that we'll have at least a week before we have to discuss or vote on it.
Correct.
Okay,
And
thanks.
this requires a public hearing, does it not? I mean, these are changes to the zoning regs. right?
Sure, the
Nick,
reg-
I mean, it
yes,
says to have a
that's
public
correct.
hearing, so there'll be a lot of notice, Paul, we'll have all of that to take a look at. And as I mentioned, other towns are all going through this. It's a scramble. I just read the document. It's a heavy lift. It's not simple. So, but everybody's going through this together as towns and municipalities. And Paul, maybe if I'm reading your point, there'll be a lot of time for people to assess this, read it, and there'll be public comment.
I would imagine so.
Yeah. And your comment too.
I mean, there could be public comment at this next meeting depending on how much time and what's on the agenda. I mean, I think at the next meeting, you can receive input from these different boards and stakeholders. I mean, you can put a public comment item on your agenda if you wanted to hear from the public. I mean, this is all part of the open process. Yes, legally, we need to have a public hearing, which requires 2 newspaper notices. It's required by statute, but that doesn't mean that the commission can't entertain public comment when it so chooses on this topic.
We just need to tell the public well in advance what we want them to comment on, and not just come with public comment on the agenda and then people,
Say anything.
right, I mean,
You want
there's gotta
a
be some.
narrow scoped. I'll do that.
Well, I think he's
Whatever.
saying, and I'm not trying, that we're trying to take public input on how we should achieve compliance with the new law, which is probably not something that most of the public is educated on, but I think we can debate whether that is, at this initial stage, there has been more desire for more public input, for better or worse.
To have people come and do a repeat of 804 Fountain Street, enumerating all the reasons why they didn't want it, is not going to be helpful. They may vent, but it's not going to be helpful to us in the process, because those reasons are irrelevant in what we're going to do next.
I completely agree, and I would prefer there not be more public comment, but I do think that there have been a lot of discussions about people wanting to come and vent to us.
Right, but to come, in all respect to everybody, but to come and vent that too much traffic, the schools are overcrowded, that's all well and good, but it's not germane to this conversation. So it'd be nice if, however we're gonna notify the public,
Yeah.
if it's almost like an RFP or some kind of notification that says, this is what we're looking for comment on,
Yeah.
not on stuff that we know is emotional,
Yeah,
but.
I agree with that,
not
Paul.
part
And
of this.
we can find a way to narrow that on the agenda and to publish that. It is not general public comment on all of our zoning regs. It's
You
pretty
can
narrow.
put some guidelines.
I agree, Bob. Please, Jim.
Nick, I just want to clarify so I can understand. So the area that we need to develop new regulations is for the transit community middle housing district, right?
It's a defined term. It's not a specific district. This is, broader statute that we're talking that applies to our local regulations, which might define things a little bit differently.
Okay.
The point is, Jim, that these commercial or mixed-use zoned developments are subject to this summary process.
Got it.
And it's
Okay, and are there, in so many areas of the law, there are model rules, model regulations. Has there been a set of model regulations that have been issued by anybody?
not yet.
So
The best we have is this fairly significant SCROG analysis that Jeff had cited before and is available on the town website. But yeah, this is brand new, Jim, and there isn't any models, there isn't any specific best practices. I'm not aware of any of my towns that have actually passed anything yet.
Okay,
So
so there's nothing even
yeah,
to work
we're-
off of as
we're on
a
a new frontier
template?
here.
Yeah, so there's no template out there that we can work off of.
Correct.
Just as you referred to a red line document. You're essentially, that's what you're calling the draft of what this document would be?
Yeah, that's correct. When we do, or when the commission entertains a regulation change, Obviously, you see it before and after, that's the red, so yes, that's why I call it a red line, but that's what the form of what you will see. It will be the text of what your existing regulation section looks like with whatever red line changes are being contemplated. So yes, that is what I mean.
Okay, and so I would just as we're going forward with this, and it seems to me to make sense that when we're talking about zoning regulations and a draft of zoning regulations, the word red line is so fraught that we should just call it's a draft or a working draft and avoid the use of the term red line.
Sure.
That's it.
I had a question. So,
Please, Ron.
like what date in July is this going into? Is it like the beginning of July or?
July 1st, I believe, correct, Nick?
Okay,
July 1st.
So it's March right now, and I think what we want to avoid, I mean, maybe I'm wrong on this. I just started this gig, but we probably don't want to have like the venting session in June.
That's for sure.
It's going to work
That's
backwards
late.
with the calendar.
Yeah, I
Is
mean,
there a
it
way
prob-
we could like kind of like have like I don't know, not to like create more, but like just if you want this kind of to feel like people have their voice heard, and then we can do our business that what we're supposed to be doing in June, I guess, right, or whatever. Hopefully even earlier than that, because there might be some changes. But like, just what I'm thinking about is like working it back from that, like almost a critical path kind of diagram. It's like
So you have you have to have a public notice in the newspaper. And it also has to go to SCROG for them to review. And they meet the second Thursday of every month. And they want 30 days notice in advance of when you're changing something, which typically means that if you change something tonight, I cannot get it to them for them to review for their meeting next week. So you're actually looking at April. Because to get it to SCROG, I needed to get it to them
30
so that they
days.
would comment, so that you have the comment back before you have to make a decision.
Nick, can you run us through what happens if we don't have this law in place in July?
Well, if an application that meets that criteria is filed and you don't have a regulation that defines this more abbreviated summary process, I would still advise and recommend that you follow the summary process that's set out by statute, even if it's not in our actual regulation by that point. What can happen from a liability standpoint? Well, if you get an application and then you don't follow that summary process, there's going to be an appeal potentially, and that will be the reason for it. So I don't think anyone is going to go to jail if the reg isn't changed by July 1st. But I mean, that is the benchmark that everyone is striving for and should strive for. So if that means we got to think about a special meeting this month to have these other boards come in and offer their input, and then we could notice actual public hearing for April, that may be the best path here.
Nick, the other boards and commissions in our town know about this at this point.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay.
I mean, in consultation with the first selectman, I understand that multiple commissions are, willing and interested to participate in this exercise that the commission is doing, and that there's a willingness to have a joint meeting. So,
Okay, all right. And Rob, we do meet monthly, okay? But sometimes when the rapids hit, right, we've had projects, we've had developments come in, applications, and there'll sometimes be 2 meetings in a month. That has happened. And something like that could happen, there could suddenly be 2 or 3 meetings to try to get everything done.
Okay.
All right, but the town is on top of this, we're on top of this, we're aware of it. It was a very short fuse, that came in, with this statewide legislation, but we're gonna be on top of it and read it. I've just read my first pass through, and there's quite a bit to it. Question I would have for Nick, a question I do have for you is for smaller towns like Woodbridge, how much of the material is actually applicable to us? I mean, are there, they actually publish in the SCROG write-up a list of towns that have maybe fewer than 20,000 residents or 10,000 residents. We're on that. I think it's the last page. Does that mean there's some data that doesn't apply to us? It doesn't say that anywhere in the document, but they do publish that list of towns. I don't know if you saw that.
For several of the new requirements, again, under this 100-plus page act,
Yeah.
some apply to towns and some don't with certain population thresholds. So that is where that list comes from. You know,
Okay.
which specifically apply to Woodbridge and which do not, that's the exercise that we're still engaged in. So, I mean, the best that we can say right now is that in the short term, the near term, what very clearly does apply to Woodbridge is this regulatory change that's required by July.
Okay. So we can expect to be at some point emailed these changes from you and Mike, and then we will also set up a meeting with these other boards and commissions to get their input. That's the to-do list, right? That's the going forward from this conversation?
Correct.
Okay.
I think the deliverable that the planner and I will submit to the commission will come subsequent to you having the joint meeting so that we can utilize the input and direction that the commission gives us that comes out of that meeting.
Okay. Anybody else have some comments, questions? Aaron, do you want to say
Just
anything?
the logistics of scheduling, if we're gonna try to schedule another meeting in March. Do we wanna pick a date and invite? Do we wanna have Chris try to coordinate?
I think my preference is to have Chris send out one of her coordination emails because she can check what rooms are available.
I agree.
What other boards and commissions are meeting, and it gives people some time at their home or family and look at their calendars and do something. So I would suggest that approach to do that, Chris. I'll be in touch with you by then.
Are you looking to have you're looking to have representatives come from boards and commissions? You're not looking for a full complement of members to come? It doesn't matter, it's just that then they have to be aware that they also have to provide notice of a special meeting because they're gonna have a quorum and all that other good stuff, so.
Yeah, I
Chris,
would-
I've been informed that the Housing Commission itself and the Conservation Commission itself, at least a quorum of them would be interested in holding a joint meeting, at least on this topic, and they understand the implications of having to notice that.
Okay.
I think there may be some representative attendance like you're suggesting from some other boards, but at least what I've been told is that there is clear buy-in by the Conservation Commission and the Housing Commission, so it would be a fuller joint meeting.
So we need a bigger room.
Correct. And Chris, when you send that out, if you could include the planner and I on that so that we can make sure that our schedules line up with the date as well.
Okay.
that's gonna be a little tricky, but we always
Like
seem
herding cats, yeah.
we always get it done. Okay, any further comments from any commission members to Nick, or they want to talk about before we move to the next
Well,
point?
I like the idea Rob mentioned about working backwards, and so, I mean, I know that's what we're working on, so it sounds like the target is to have this meeting this month, so that we can then notify and then have the following meeting in April, right?
Right.
Okay. And then beyond that, what's required to get us to the July date, or So
Well, we'll have to have a public hearing. We will then have to have some one or two work sessions where we deliberate as a group to see what it is we want to include in those regulations. There'll probably be some choices, and direction that we're going to give to the town planner, the town attorney in terms of the actual verbiage and any regulations that they present to us. And we'll all talk about it, amongst ourselves, Matt, okay? And then that will incorporate a public hearing component of it, all right? And then as we move along, we would at some point then schedule votes. So, that could be June, that votes, maybe earlier. It's
That's
hard to
that's
say,
what's
Matt.
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
in my experience with doing this, Paul can say something too. It's hard to project where it will be exactly.
Okay.
It does change a little bit over time, and you have to see when the dates line up.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted, because if we have the meeting in April, that's only 2 months till we supposed to.
It'll
have it.
feel a little
Yeah.
pressured,
Yeah, okay.
but you guys have this. We'll get it. We'll get it done. All right. There's other things coming in the future too, such as the housing growth plan and so forth that are part of this. We're gonna leave that alone tonight, but that's another deadline. I think that's in 2 or 3 years, maybe sooner than that. I can't remember. But there's other components.
2028.
2028, so 2 years. So right now, the town of Woodbridge has something called an affordable housing plan. And the state required us to put that together, vet it, the housing committee at the time, now it's a commission. And they had to put this document together. I think that was 2022, went to the Board of Selectmen, they voted on it as well, Chris, do I have this correct? And then they submitted it to the state. Now, all of that work, and a lot of folks put a lot of time in this town on that, that is being set aside. There is no more affordable housing plan under this new legislation. So there's a housing growth plan, and that housing growth plan is for us to work on as a town and or work with the council of governments on. All right, so that's its own decision-making process. It's in the document that I've been referencing. You should take a look at it. Look, I'll give you one fun fact, all right, if you want to look at this, because this is something Nick and I had talked about. So in the United States, there's 50 states, right? There's 50 states. All of them, every single one of them, have city governments. Then they have county governments. Then you have a state government. So all 50 states, all of them have county governments, except for 3 states. One's Louisiana, and that's called a parish. Okay, so there's a different kind of arrangement a little bit with the French and Catholic type tradition. And then there's also, finally, Connecticut and Rhode Island. The Connecticut and Rhode Island don't have county seats of government. So a little bit what's happening with this legislation is you kind of see how the state of Connecticut is thinking through that a little bit and looking to sort of do this more of some county level work. And so this legislation is coming through and is moving through the Council of Governments in the state. So it's a complicated process. It's a little unusual, but we'll all have to work on it together and do the best we can for the town we work in. But all these towns in Connecticut are all in this together. So all 169 towns at different levels are looking at this.
And Jeff, if I could just clarify, it
Please.
is not 28. Ours, because we're in a certain region, will be due July 1st, 2029. That is not a specific lift of this commission. I mean, this commission can give input into it. But yeah, June 1st, 29 on the housing growth plan.
So does the Housing Commission do that? Or do we do the housing?
I think the housing commission is taking that on as one of their principal roles right now.
Okay, so they'll do that. And then we have to decide if we want to use Scroggs or if we want to use ours, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We might go back to that point, but we're not going to do it tonight. But anyway, folks can see this is a little bit complicated. We'll have to work on it together as a town. There's no doubt about it. Any final thoughts, Paul, before we move on?
None, sir.
All right, Paul, thank you. All right. So, on another topic, and this also is a little bit complicated because it's happening to come up now, but I had agreed to and support the idea of having a side subcommittee reporting to the commission to work on the POCD. And let me make a few comments about that. Let's talk about it as a commission. So I'm going to just sketch this out a little bit, and then we'll talk about it. it will require a motion for us to move this forward. We can motion it tonight or at another meeting, and then we have to get some folks on it that would want to be on it. But let me make some comments about this committee that I had in mind. This committee is getting made a little bit more complicated because we're in the middle of all of a sudden trying to get a hold of these regs and understand them that we just discussed. But our town just did the plan of conservation and development. So what I had in mind was establishing a subcommittee with 8 to 10 persons to review our existing plan of conservation development, which we just put through, okay? And the goal would be for this committee to review the POCD for any material, meaningful mistakes, errors, omissions, or anything that people would want to put into it. Suggest any potential changes, if any, that committee would want, and they would suggest changes to the commission if they would want to do that. And they also would review the new legislation in Special Act 2501 and determine what, if any, changes ought to be recommended to the commission for the plan of conservation development. So it's a more narrow scope to this committee. Members would pull people from the EDC, Economic Development Commission, Housing Commission, Sustainability, Conservation, and so forth, plus 1 or 2 members of TPZ. This committee would have a short duration, so maybe 6 to 9 meetings. It's not going to go on and on with months and months. As soon as they have their 6 to 9 meetings at their discretion, that committee would be dissolved. They would provide the commission with some information as to how they suggest we could change the POCD. While the POCD is only done once every 10 years, it is a document that could be changed, and we can submit those changes to the state if we vote on it. The point of having this committee, for me using all these words, is improve communication a little bit across the town, pull in some different thoughts and opinions on the PCOD, increase town awareness of these various activities, and increase town awareness on the legislation. I'm going to need a couple people from the commission to volunteer to be on that committee, okay? And its duration in terms of how long in the calendar, I can't say yet, but it would be something for around 6 to 9 meetings, so it'd probably be 3 to 6 months, something like that. But it would be specifically focused on the POCD. They would come back to us and sort of report some of their findings of what they want to do. Now, if this new legislation requires substantial changes to the POCD, I don't feel this committee, based on how I'm setting it up, would be able to do all of that, but it is possible we could bolster that committee to do that. This is all falling under the legislation of how POCD is legislated at the state level here in Connecticut. I think we distributed that at the last meeting. I can't remember. I know I have a copy of it. Chris, did that go out to people?
I'm sorry.
The POCD legislation specific, did you just give that to me? We'll get it to people.
I can give it out to everybody.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I know I'm using a lot of words here, but I think this committee could be helpful for just taking a look at all these things. Nick, did you want to have anything to say on this? We've discussed this, you and I. Did you want to comment at all?
Sure, just that it's specifically authorized under the section of state law that requires POCDs. And this subcommittee does not have to be comprised of your own commission members. It's a rare statutory authority that your commission has to set up a completely separate subcommittee. And as the chairman's suggesting, it makes sense to have at least a few representatives from your commission on that subcommittee. But yeah, you can have, I mean, there is fairly broad discretion to appoint this committee for purposes of reviewing the POCD and identifying if there's any appropriate changes, whether that's for consistency with state law or consistency with the community's intentions. So it's fully contemplated in the law, and yeah, I support the initiative if that's how the commission wants to proceed.
And Nick, do you know, it's still early on, do you know what, if any, changes towns have to make to the POCD specific to the new legislation? Have you looked at that at all yet? So
overall, right now, I'm not seeing clear express obligations for what must be in a POCD that's different than what is in typically our POCDs that we see and what this commission has recently approved. So I guess my answer is no, Jeff, not yet, but some of these, some of the provisions in the act may very well inherently impact how the town wants to present and represent its positions in the POCD. So, not yet, Jeff, but that is, you know, a large part of, as we're studying the full extent of the act and the long-term implications, that's part of what, I mean, I see my role at least as identifying for your commission.
Okay, so to move forward with this committee, you and I talked only so briefly about it today. Should I do a motion to establish this committee? Or
Yeah,
how
you
do I
can
do
do
it?
it as
How do we do that?
Parliamentary procedure, right? You
All
can entertain or make a motion to establish a committee of a certain number of members. You should identify the number of members because it's not specifically set forth in the statute. So you have discretion to say how many are going to be on this subcommittee. That's probably an initiating threshold motion that folks will either be for or against, and there might not be all that much debate about it. If there's any sort of debate, it might be on who actually gets appointed to these positions. So sure, if you want to entertain first a motion to initiate the subcommittee with a certain number of members, and then you could take a second motion to actually, well, it might be multiple motions to actually fill those appointments. I don't know if you have a list
We're
there,
not doing
Jeff,
that
and
tonight.
you can
No,
do like,
yeah,
you know,
that's not done.
here's the proposed nominated list.
Okay.
You know, you could do it all as one motion if you have it set up that way. If there's anyone opposed, then you might have to split them out.
Understood. Hold on. Now.
Can I say-
Any comments from commission members, please? Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a question. So one, Nick, you mentioned that you anticipate some parts of the law is going to be changed next year. So does it make sense to do this now or wait till those changes take effect?
It may very well make sense now because, I mean, I know you're just sort of, I mean, obviously you've been in the community, but coming into the mix here, there's been different thoughts about the accuracy of the POCD and whether there can be even further revisions from what it is currently, regardless of the new legislation, to make it a more fair and equitable representation of the community's interests. So from that perspective, I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to engage in now. And as Jeff stated, this subcommittee may not, you know, really, it might not be their role, and they might really not be that competent to identify, okay, here's this legislation, here are these complicated legislative changes, you know, should we be building these in? Obviously, they would have the support of me from a legal perspective, but I mean, we don't even know exactly what changes might be, so I don't think that's reason enough to press the pause button on this concept now.
All right, you kind of touched on my other question, which is, and yeah, I don't have a lot of background on this, but you know, it seems like there's a lot of work in the near future for the commission to, you know, about the zoning regulations and stuff that we need to adjust. You know, and the fact that it was just approved, you know, became effective January 1st.
Yeah.
So I just, John, just some background, I understand why with this quickly we want to review it and do this work now, and why not, you know, especially the work that's in front of the commission right now in the short term. Well, I could put this on the sideburn and maybe do it in 6 months or a year, but I just don't have the background here, so I'm just. if you can
Matt, a
explain
little bit about what happened that could be helpful for the town. I mean, the plan of conservation and development, we were working on it for approximately 2 years as a commission. So we were, working on it. We had retained, a consulting firm to help us out with it. We had some public hearings. And in the town that we all live in together, there were some people that felt like their opinions weren't valued as much, or maybe weren't a part of the POCD discussion. All right, and so there were some folks in town that maybe felt that their views weren't fully vetted by the company that put together the POCD, and at the time, the commission, of which I was a member, and I did vote for it to move ahead. Long story short, it went to the Board of Selectmen, which is part of the process, and they voted it down. So the Board of Selectmen didn't like the POCD that we did. So the commission stepped up, redid it, we all took a look at it, made some changes to it, worked with a consultant. We worked with the same consulting company, but we had a couple of other new consultants come on. And in a short period of time, between September and December, we redid the POCD, voted on it, put it through, and it got completed. While towns are supposed to need to do the POCD and required to update it every 10 years under state statute with the state, it could be changed by folks over time and updated based on changes on the town's needs, finances, where the town is going, the direction, the housing they're doing. So what we thought was a good idea, and what I thought was a good idea, was to have this subcommittee happen, to just pull in some different people from the town to get their opinions about it, to distill that. And it was a very fast process in the POCD. If we establish this committee, they don't have any legal say over it. They can put together a list of ideas or comments. They'll send it to us, we can evaluate it, and if we want to change the POCD, we can. But the mechanism is to bring the town a little bit together. A couple of years ago, we were working on signs to argue out, can you have an ice cream stand sign part of the town? Things have gotten very complicated in our town with housing, with issues like this, with changes in legislation, with different points of view. The idea of a committee like this is just to get the people talking on that type of a level. You're right, it's creating a lot of work, but there'll be 1 or 2 commission members on this committee. If no one wants to serve on the committee and it ultimately doesn't come together, we'll just let it go. Like if no one wants to do it, all right? But this shows that we are taking an effort as a town planning and zoning commission to incorporate other different points of view in town, maybe get some people who are experts in the field in town to serve on the committee and make a contribution. Was that helpful?
No.
It was kind of wordy, I think.
Yeah, no, it was helpful.
All right.
So we're not looking at,
It was wordy, right?
we're not looking just at people from other commissions and committees in town, but just some maybe people from the public at large to be on it as well.
Of course,
Okay.
yeah, a diverse cross-section of people
Yeah.
that live in Woodbridge that are very interested.
Okay.
Very interested. So it's gonna be a little tricky to put that committee together. I promise you, nothing's easy in any town, including this one, but we'll get a group of people together that's a good cross-section of town. I have some people in mind, and, we'll take it a step at a time. We're all gonna vote on whoever's on that committee together. Please.
I agree with Matt on both points. So first, it was a long process and a lot of hearings and special meetings.
It was.
I'm not in favor of starting this reopening the document. With all due respect to the 9,000 residents of Woodbridge, there was a lengthy comment period. I feel bad that people don't feel that they were enfranchised,
Yeah.
but there was ample opportunity. And so I'm not in favor of starting this right now.
Yeah.
To Matt's second point, I wholeheartedly agree. We're gonna have I'm not doing your job nor Chris's job, but given what was just laid out by Nick for July 1, and what has to go to SCROG for 30 days, we're gonna have a lot of special meetings. I know, I think it's onerous to put that on the table right now. You wanna punt it to at least the summer or the end of the year
Sure.
to bring up again, but I'd like to hear from folks. I don't know who these folks are who felt like they were disenfranchised, but I'm gonna tell you, I think they had plenty of opportunities to speak.
So Paul, the Board of Selectmen voted it down.
But
So go engage with me in that a little bit. And they voted it down in part because they said people didn't have a chance to contribute to it.
Yeah, but
Or-
hold on.
Let me-
So I'm not gonna break any confidences, but
Yeah,
it was not a, choose my words carefully, stay out of trouble.
please.
It was not just this little kind of grassroots, it wasn't even an uprising. I think there was a little more at play here that was totally, I don't think it was totally genuine. They all voted no.
Okay.
I think some perhaps politics played a role.
Might happen.
But look, I'm sorry. We're an independent body.
Sure,
We had plenty of internal discussion on that.
we did.
Right? Again, there were so many opportunities for people to comment and disagree, agree, and they did all those focus groups, and there was so much done. I mean, again, I feel bad if people felt disenfranchised, but they didn't. I don't know who showed up and who's unhappy, but
Yeah.
I mean, I've been here a long time. I haven't heard this groundswell of unhappiness about our POCD. Nobody, 9,000 residents, there's probably 7,000 opinions. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but we gotta move on. We have this thing in front of us for July 1, so that's gotta be a priority.
I really appreciate what you have to say, and Aaron, I'm hearing you.
I 100% agree with what Paul says. I second that in its totality. My question for you is,
Sure.
So if we enfranchise this committee, we have them go to 6 to 9 meetings, and it's whoever it is, and they come up with a bunch of things, and we decide, you know what, like, we like ours better that we voted on and spent all that time on. Is that worse than, I mean, I think that the idea that the people didn't have idea for, like, there was lots of opportunity for public comment, and there was a certain segment of the population who is not happy with what we chose to put into the POCD. Whether they said it or not, I think that though, if you looked, those people's views were represented in public comment, right? We had comment on both sides.
Or they had the chance to do that.
But, and
For
even
sure,
if they didn't,
Right.
someone else did, those comments were, there were a lot of comments on a lot of issues. And sort of to play up something that I rejected from Paul earlier, like amending our actual zoning regulations required by this law and this new law, and the process that we'll have to go through to do that is gonna take up a ton of our time.
It
And
will.
is what
It
will actually have the impact on our town going forward. The POCD obviously is required by law, and zoning applications have to, you have to have a statement that it conforms to it, but beyond that statement, which feels like something it's a big enough document that contains multitudes, its immediate impact on the day-to-day operations of the planning zoning board and how we evaluate these applications feels less is less compared to the regulations we have and the work that we are going to continue to do to updating them. So I agree that, and it, once we update the regulations, then trying to look at it and make sure that the plan of zoning and conservation reflects that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to have a vote on this, but I agree with Paul.
You were here. Bob, comments?
No, I think that we have a big job ahead of us, and that probably the best thing is to put this off a little bit, at least till we get this July 1st deadline completed. I agree with what several people have said.
I agree with that too.
Good. Okay. So we're going to set aside the committee. Okay. We're not going to move forward with it at this time as we focus on these other matters and updating the regs and so forth. So we will not be doing that at this point in time. We can bring it back if commissioners feel at a future point in time that makes more sense to do that, we will bring it back. Or if we do find things that we have to do to the POCD, then we can bring that back and do a committee to fix it. This legislation is very substantial. It's a bit of a surprise how it all came together, and it will take a lot of work in the town to do all these things and to work on it. So we will prioritize that, and right now we won't move forward with the committee.
Can I just real quick question? Because I agree with everyone.
Yeah.
Like, what happens after for this July 1st thing? Would that potentially influence this document? piece.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe it's even better for us to get through that, and then.
Definitely.
And I'm just thinking, like, it just got accepted December 8th, 2025. Like, you know, we have 10 more years, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
towns do
So
it
it's kinda
once
like
every
maybe it's
10
like, you know,
years. It's a
like-
document that
yeah.
people revise
Yeah.
over time.
So I could see, like, us, like, saying,
Right.
like, you know, like, it's probably really important to start to, like, think about this committee, like, certainly after this July 1st thing, but also maybe, you know, certainly by the 5-year mark, right? I mean, not-
Oh,
not
in
too
terms
long.
of completely
Yeah.
redoing it, yeah, about 2 years ahead, right,
Yeah.
Chris? Is what we typically have done.
Right.
And that, you know, we hired a consulting firm, we spent a lot of money on this,
$100,000.
you know, on this consulting firm.
Yeah, it's expensive.
That was just, you know, they just, the last check just cashed, it's, you know, it was just.
I
finished
agree,
that.
I agree with Rob that the time to do this, you know, once we settle with this is, then, by then we may not feel we need to, or there may be more of a need to do it, but to do it, we'll probably just end up having to do it again, because we may not fit what we end up with.
Understood.
July 1st.
All right, I'm persuaded. All right, we'll set aside the committee, okay? All right. Next item. All right. Regional SCROG updates.
Mike, want me to give you a brief report on that? Okay.
We would love that, since SCROG is going to be increasingly important to us, yeah.
Well, we had a meeting, this is use the Microsoft Teams, not Zoom, but we had a meeting February 12th, and they just listed a number of the different towns, things they were working on zoning. I just mentioned briefly, Wallingford approved zoning regulations for a museum. They didn't have that in their zoning regulations. Killingworth, accessory dwelling units, they allowed access accessory dwelling units, 10 units or more in an R30 or RA zone. They have regulations for that. In Milford, accessory units in detached garages, they put in a regulation for that. They just mention these things, they don't go into detail on these, they're just talking about it. And Town of Orange, they have a planned residential development for off-street parking. We required if you have a development of 17 units or more, they have to have off-street parking. Meriden, they had some regulations based on self-storage facilities, which they didn't, apparently weren't in their zoning regulations, and they can be in commercial, industrial districts, and they'll either, depending on where they are, they'll be by right or by special exception, depending on which zoning district they're in. New Haven, they just an informational opinion, they were talking about the plans near the train station, Union Station, for a lot of affordable housing, and there wasn't anything where we had to take a vote on that, but the thing I kind of mentioned, it seemed to me that there should be a little more in the way of commercial development in that area too. They seem to be just, essentially just housing, which I'm not opposed to, but I think that, you know, near a train station, you see what's going on, how Stanford is developed near a train station, that I think this should be, but we just made comments, there was no vote on that. And they also mentioned at the end that they're going to hire a regional manager for statewide housing analysis, and that's going to be connected with this. So that's the things that were covered. We have,
So, but they're not, are they then giving us, this might be
No, this
for
is-
Chris
this is
as
more-
well. Do they say, yes, this is
No,
consistent with our plan
we
or
don't-
something? Or?
we don't really have any authority. You can comment, you can criticize, you can, but even if you're not in favor of it, you really can't do much about it.
So they don't take that into consideration if you're for or against this?
Well, I think that in all of these, no one was opposed to these, but I think you can say that you're opposed to it, but this group doesn't have any authority to oppose these changes. I spoke to the person who was the head of it beforehand. He said
Yeah.
that it's more of an advisory. We really don't have anything that we can counter these and say these aren't good. You should come back if there's something else. You can't do that.
They're limited in scope to
Yeah.
looking more at intermunicipal
Yeah,
conflicts
yeah,
or impacts, adverse impacts on Long Island Sound.
Yeah.
So they're not really looking for, they're assuming that a town knows better what
Yeah.
the town wants to do for itself.
Mhm.
And they're just, as a council, looking at, is this gonna adversely affect you as a neighbor?
So does the new legislation change that a little bit? Because they're gonna be charged with,
That's a different kettle of fish. That's not this.
it's the same body though, isn't it? Or
This
not?
is the Regional Planning Commission, and their charge is
Okay.
to review zoning regs that come in and POCDs that come in, and then make a determination. Does it have an intermunicipal conflict?
Okay.
Or does it have an adverse impact on Long Island Sound? And those are the two narrow places
That's it.
where it falls.
yeah.
Okay.
And none of these really did.
Did that.
And that's
Okay.
why you always heard Andy saying, and we found that none of these.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, okay. Thank you for your report, Bob. Our zoning enforcement officer,
We did receive, or I did receive, a complaint from Derek Owaskowitz, predominantly about some residents that are down on Luciani Street. And so I just got that on Thursday. I was out on Friday and I didn't have time to really start pulling it apart. There are a number of different things. Some of them fall possibly within zoning, some of them fall within other entities, so I have to look at it, pull it apart, and then forward it to whoever may be more, it may not all be zoning related.
is it in writing, I assume?
Yes,
Okay, so it was
it's a formal complaint
okay.
with pictures and everything else, but it's not, while it got sent or submitted as a zoning enforcement complaint, it's
Right.
not all things that fall under zoning. So some of them
Understood,
fall
okay.
under perhaps the, there's concerns about drainage that may have been tied into the storm drainage. Well, that's not zoning, that's public works.
Does that go to Nick as well, that document, or do we just take care of that in town? I'm just
He
wondering.
can make sure that I'm sending it to the right people, but
Okay,
I
all
don't think you want all that extra work, Nick.
right.
So, that just
busy.
came in.
Happy to help. I'm happy to help parse that. However, you think most
Yeah, no, I
efficient,
will
Chris.
definitely have you take a look-see at it.
But we don't have to do anything.
But I just want to formally tell you that the complaint was received. that-
And it's in there, okay, it's in there.
And, because he had mentioned that he had mentioned it in the course of one of the public hearings regarding his properties on Luciani, and that nothing had been done, and so this time he's written a formal thing, so
Sure.
we will address it accordingly.
This is that area where the person's been blasting and everything, or that's a different?
Yeah, that's,
this
That's
is
the
area-
street.
and that's the city.
He's the
guy.
blaster.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I haven't seen the complaint, I didn't. so I
No,
didn't
I
comment
just wonder
on it.
what that's.
But that
for.
is the person
He-
who
he
has the
has-
permit.
Some of the things that he's raised are very valid. So
Right,
we'll go through it,
thank you.
and that's that.
Next item on the agenda is titled Any Other Business Which May Legally Become Before the Commission. I did want commission members to be aware of a letter that you're in receipt of. It's been sent to us by Andrea Urbano and Amy Morella, both our neighbors in town and also elected officials on the Board of Selectmen. They have sent us a memo. I have read it. It has some very good information in it. Just for the record, they're not here this evening, so neither one of them has come before us to mention anything about it. But this letter is here for your consideration for you to take a look at. It has to do with how they view certain things should be prioritized. And one of the things that they mentioned quite a bit is awareness and education for the town about the recently passed legislation. The people in town need to be aware of it. We thank them for their opinions and for their comments, and I would encourage you to read it and just take it into consideration. Any comments on that? Okay. All right. Next, approval of minutes. So we have minutes. Did you do the February 2nd one?
No,
Okay, that's okay, okay.
had to leave myself something to keep doing.
All right. Did you do the special meeting? I mean, that's like one,
Yeah,
did we get that?
Yep, it's in here.
yeah,
Was that
it's
attached?
very short.
Okay.
Would you like a hard copy?
No, it's in, no, you emailed it
It's
to me.
Feb 11, Jeff. What's that? February 11th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, I'm sorry, February 11, 2026.
That's it.
Yes, yes, there was a special meeting that we jointly held with the Board of Selectmen. Yep, okay.
I move to approve that. You want to do all the minutes individually or do them as a body?
All together.
No, I'd like to say something about one of the minutes.
In that case, you have the floor then.
Well, the minutes for December 18th, I don't feel that, as written, it describes exactly what happened at the meeting. And I'd just like it to be amended to indicate that it says, I was objected to Ms. Hunter being seated. And the reason I objected is that if she was seated then, which she was, should be seated and voting at 3 meetings, consecutive meetings in a row, which I felt was not reasonable. And that's something that really isn't said in here. And I just that I opposed her seating there, and I just feel.
So
it
you
should
feel
be
the
added.
memo's factually incorrect, right?
Well, I
It's
think
not an
more
opinion.
should be added to it. I'm not saying it's totally. The other thing where it says here that this voting process was used for several decades is a little, I mean, certainly from what Chris said, it was used for over a decade, but several decades sounds like a long period.
I have the records that go back several decades.
Well, several is a very vague.
I've been here 25
Yeah,
years,
yeah,
and
but
it's
that's-
back to
yeah.
then.
You know,
That's
well,
more than one decade.
several could sound longer than that. I don't think that's the right term. But anyway, I just would like it to say that I objected because she was being seated 3 consecutive meetings in a row, voting 3 consecutive meetings in a row, and I didn't feel that was reasonable.
So you don't feel it was written into the minutes properly, what
Yes.
happened, is that correct?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Because it's not really for an opinion, it's more like what actually happened.
Yes, that's
So
what I'm
you
saying.
want that to be put into the minutes?
Yes.
Chris, do you have an opinion on that?
These are not my minutes, these are your minutes.
I know, but you take them and you're so skilled.
These
So
are not
good.
my minutes, these are the minutes of the commission, and it is up to the commission to decide what they want to say in their minutes. Their minutes literally only have to be the motions of what happened, who was here, when you started, when you ended.
Understood.
So you decide what you want in them.
I'll tell you what, let me take another look at the December 18th minutes, okay? Because I don't want to make
So
a decision
we'll hold
without
off,
having.
okay.
So I'm going to hold off on that, but Paul, I will accept a motion by you to do all the rest of it if you're comfortable.
I am. There's one thing that, I don't know why I just picked this out, but I think Rob Rosasco's name is spelled wrong, Chris.
I don't know which minutes.
It is the minutes of October 6th.
I will check. There are so many names that
Oh, I
I have
know.
to spell. And I have to tell you, when we ask people to sign in,
They don't, you can never read the sheet.
you can never read
No,
the
no.
sheets. You would be surprised at how much backtracking I do to figure out who was here. But I will check that.
So, Paul, just before you make your motion, I can't vote, I have to abstain from the October 6th. I wasn't yet on the commission. But I want to vote on all of the others, so can you just carve out?
I
the
think you
October-
can, Nick, are you hearing this?
I think you can.
He can, we have a new commission member, he can vote on historical minutes even if he wasn't here, isn't that correct or not?
I mean, if he's watched the transcript of the meeting
Oh,
or
then-
watched a recording of the meeting, you can vote on the minutes. Jim, are you representing that you haven't done that, so you're not comfortable voting on
Yeah,
October
I'm
6th,
not
but you
comfortable.
would for the subsequent?
Correct.
So he could just abstain.
He abstained.
No, that's why I was just saying, you
Yeah.
can do them in
No,
bulk.
this is helpful, right?
Yeah, you could, even if you do it in bulk, you just abstain.
I think they
Unless you wanna
still
do it one by
pass. How
one.
many, 1, 2,
You're making this far more difficult than you
Yeah.
need to. Why don't you just make a
do one at
motion
a
on
time.
October 6th, and Jim will abstain.
So moved.
And then we'll make a
Right.
motion on the
Agreed.
other 3 that I gave you.
got it. October 6th is first, and is there a second on October 6th? Aaron, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstain? Okay, one abstention?
Abstain.
Yes.
Yes.
Then we have the same thing with
I can.
December 1 and December 8.
Rob
So-
will abstain.
Yep, so whoever wasn't here, I move we approve December 1 and December 8 minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstention, okay. We're
I
done.
move we approve the special meeting of February 11th.
Second.
Is that the one you were talking about?
Nope,
No,
Okay.
not the 18th.
Okay.
December 18th.
Yeah.
There you go. All in favor of
Aye.
aye? Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Okay. That's good. It's a shorter list now. I will take a look at another look at those minutes, talk to Chris, and we'll make sure we do this the
I
right
can
way.
send you.
Please.
I will.
Please, yeah, we'll take a look at it.
You
All
can
right.
go online, you can watch the meeting, and you can do a transcript of the YouTube meeting.
Okay. Doesn't AI do that now for us?
Yes.
It's on,
It
that's where I
runs
go.
along it?
Yeah, when I'm doing minutes, and if I'm trying to make sure I'm using your words, I go in there and I click on where it says more, you can do a transcript, and then you can pick up the words that were used.
Thank you. Nick, any further comments, questions? Thank you for joining us.
Nothing further.
Thank you, Nick. Chris, anything?
No, I want to go home.
Paul, I think our work is done.
Move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.